Welcome, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts podcast, where we discuss the everyday questions that make us or break us if we let them. I am your host, Drew. Take my hand and let's walk this journey together. Welcome everyone back to another episode of the Meaningful Hearts podcast. It is Drew, and today I want to talk about one of my biggest fears, and I'm sure a lot of fears for all of you, is not being able to help somebody that you love and the feeling that you get of helplessness, right? The thought of a loved one being lost to a sickness or a tragedy or anything, or even just not being able to help them and they're just in pain. It's one of the hardest things anyone can bear, right? But to know the loss is inevitable and to know that they're slowly dying or they're slowly going through this torture and it is going to be their demise is even worse, because now it's slow torture for you and that person, because you just want to help them and you can't. You know, I've suffered some in some situations like this myself, and it's as strong as you are, it breaks you down. Now, the reason why this topic has come up recently, you know, I have a friend of mine who's going through a really difficult time in his life with his father. And that man is very strong. His father is just amazingly strong. The guy built himself from nothing. Just very strong-willed, always sure of himself, driven. And for him to be in a very sick state where he has a lot of complications, and almost for him to give up on life, almost like he feels that I guess he's fought so hard and it's just like, it's like he can't push anymore. Almost the polar opposite of the person that he is. And for his son, you know, one of my closest friends, to see that, it's like a dagger to the heart. Now, my closest friend as well is strong-willed, an exact copy or like a 2.0 version of his father. And him too, being broken down and being in pain as well, and not being able to, you know, do anything about it, because there's nothing that he could physically, anything that he can do, he has done. And if there's anything else that he can do, he will do. But in this situation, it's like a stalemate, and he can only leave it in the hands of God. And he's powerless. And I feel for my friend, you know, because I feel, you know, I can't even help him. I can't help his father. I can't help anyone. And it's really sad. It's really sad to hear that your best friend cannot get out of bed, right? Can't even think, you know, a very driven individual as well, and just can't think about doing anything. A person that wakes up at 4 a.m, has everything on a cycle. Guy runs top shape, works out. Everything's on a schedule. Just can't get out of bed. Completely not functional. Sad, scary. It brings hopelessness. It definitely affects me as well. And you know, I just figured it would be something we could talk about today. Something that's really important. And I'm sure many of you who are listening are going through this, or might have come across this topic and are listening because you're going through this right now. Well, you're not alone. It happens all around the world, everywhere, all the time, different scenarios. You know, you're not alone. So, you know, what's the point of discussing this? It's to learn how to get through it, right? It's to learn how to reason with it. It's learn how to understand it. There's always a way to attack our fears and keep them at bay, or even deal with them in the best way possible. I believe that. Every scenario, situation, there's always a cause of action. There's always something you could do. Because these things don't stop coming. These things don't just stop coming in your life, right? At any point, something could put you in a scenario and you have to be able to deal with it. Mentally, you have to be able to deal with it. You have to. You have to be able to deal with it mentally. You have to. Healing is a part of the process, takes a lot of time, and is agonizing. It's a time of reflection, and a lot of time that goes into it makes us change into a newer, wiser version of our former self, more aware, and sometimes even more determined to be better. Some of us crumble and regress drastically, and this is something that happens. Not all of us make it. A lot of us fall backwards too. Not all losses hit us the same way. And I'm not shaming anyone. It's not something for me to judge, because pain is pain. Everybody feels it in different scales, but it all feels the same to everyone. A splinter to some person could feel like a dagger to the knee. I cannot tell you to feel worse or better. That's your perception, how you feel things. I can't tell you how to feel. I just want you to understand that you are allowed to be upset and allowed to grieve and deal. But I don't want you to give up or become a shell of your former self, because then it would be two tragedies instead of one. And you have to still live for people that are there for you, your family, your parents maybe. God forbid something happens and then you're a shell of who you are. Maybe you regress. Maybe you're going down a really dark path. Well, your loved ones are dealing with that too. That's going to give them stress, and that's going to make them feel scared for what you're about to do. You still have to live. You still have to move on. Maybe some of you have children, wives, husbands, a pet, anybody. You have to live. We are going to die one day, but don't shorten your life because of your misery. Now, if you're someone that has not felt this, but fears it, or someone who is more fearful that history will repeat itself, through your experiences in the past, you might think that it'll happen again. And that's not, that post-traumatic stress that you feel it's not unfounded, right? It's something that's real. It's valid. That comes down to being logical with ourselves. Let's be logical. Bad things can happen more than once to anyone, but they tend to like not happen. They really don't. It's that PTSD. We have something really traumatic happen in our lives, and an inkling of something like that being close by will automatically bring the fears back again. But a lot of times we fear things that don't necessarily come into reality. It's something I have to deal with every day. I have anxiety. So I know it's hard. We also fear what is fresh, if it's recent too and traumatizing to us, we'll feel it and we'll fear it. You should also not go through this alone. I don't recommend just closing yourself in a closet and just when you're better come out. You need to talk to someone. Talk to someone if you're having a hard time dealing with life. I'm not an expert or a doctor, and I believe that the proper management of your thoughts and positive reinforcement will aid you back to a healthy state. But don't go down a dark path or abuse yourself. Reach out to your friends. There's groups online that deal with loss and tragedy, or loneliness, or sadness, or depression. Reach out to these groups. There are people that have been down some really crazy places, and they'll embrace you, and they'll help you. They'll sponsor you. They'll be there for you to talk to you because they want to help. Maybe they lost somebody because they couldn't help a friend. A friend committed suicide because of sadness. And now they're here in the community just trying to put their hands out to everyone they wish they could have helped. Before this happened, they wish they could have helped their friends. So they amplify that by coming online and helping people. So reach out to these people. They really do care. There are plenty of people who understand you and will embrace you, I promise. It's always good to know you're not alone and that you're loved, because you are. You're loved. There's somebody out there that loves you. They truly do. And your friends and family do too. I don't recommend taking drugs or drinking. Don't medicate in that way. Now, if you get prescribed something from a doctor and he's monitoring with you, by all means, that's a doctor's, doctor-patient thing, and he knows what he's doing. That's what he has a degree on. But don't go to hell with yourself. Keep yourself sharp. Keep yourself active, doing productive things. This will definitely help you. And you have to keep reinforcing positive affirmations, things that are good. And I promise you'll get through it. But it's going to take time. You're breaking down a wall. You broke down a wall that was solid. Bad things raided your fort, knocked you down, and beat you up really good. And now you're nursing your wounds. You're getting back to square one again. You're getting back to just zero where you once were. It's going to take time. Nobody's asking for you to get over it overnight, but it needs its time to heal. And you need to speak to somebody. Don't go at it alone, please. A lot of us do. A lot of us are wounded and we just go at it alone. That's not good. Does anybody else want to share a story? I would love to hear some of your stories. I think there are people out there that have amazing stories of courage, fear of the unknown, and have come back. There are war stories that are just amazing. People that were left on their own out in the middle of nowhere in enemy territory and making it back alive. Like, there are some really crazy stories, and just keeping yourself mentally there, mentally sharp, knowing that one wrong turn could end your life. It's incredible how important your mental health is and being able to keep yourself in a good place mentally. Because once that's gone, it's just going to lead to a lot of bad stuff. And I don't want that for any of you. I love my friend dearly, and I'll do anything for him. And I wish that regardless of what happens, that he overcomes any of this and becomes even an amplified, better person, stronger than he was before. And it's going to take time and healing. So as I end this, I just want to tell you that you're not alone and you are loved. And I thank you for listening. God bless.